While you're rocking with us at Toxic Radio, don't forget to check us out on social media.
I want details, and I want them right now.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Now you're talking, brother.
Chat with us, keep up on news. Just don't make it weird. Don't be a stalker. Don't be that guy.
You just want to suck the joy out of everything.
Toxic Radio. Get infected.
Master, dinner is served. Igor, it's not that I don't appreciate the effort, but you know I prefer my meals uncooked. And how many times have I told you about using garlic? Yes, Master. Forgive me, Master. Please. Bite into Paradelphia. Thursday nights at 8, only on Toxic Radio. Paradelphia, because what if it's all true?
Hey guys, dating life gone pretty shitty?
I find you so creepy, I think you should have to walk around with a bell around your neck.
Finding yourself getting a little desperate for some female companionship?
Alexa, tell me you love me.
Hell no. You disgust me.
What you need is to upgrade your style right now. The Toxic Store's got exactly what you need. Pick up some stylish gear featuring Deviant Gamer, Toxic Radio, and the Heavy Metal Happy Hour.
Oh, yeah!
You can find the store through the Toxic Radio app or toxicradio.net. Get in the game.
Do I make you horny, baby?
Get yourself a little love.
That guy's getting boobies. Yeah, he is.
Toxic Radio and the Toxic Store. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic.
Welcome to show 57. I am your host. My voice is almost gone. Gene Walzak. And to my left in the studio, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Control.
What's going on, everybody?
And coming from you remote is Scholastic Uncle Shally. What's up, buddy? He's on mute. There he is. What's happening, Shally?
No, what's going on? You sound better than you did last night.
I know, I'm trying. I did the honey. I did everything today. We got NCAA basketball starting this week. We got UFC Recap. We got NCAA Rankings. We have NFL. We got a lot to get into. Every show seems action-packed from here, but this one, Ultra, we got 4 different, obviously, sports to get into. But one of the things I wanted to do first is I wanted to recap a big night at UFC. I thought that was a good card. It started off with a bang. I finally found out why Dana White did that with Chandler, Gaethje, and leading them off, because he was watching the Canelo Alvarez fight, so he wanted that fight before Canelo Alvarez, so he basically spaced out his 3 fights. But with that being said, that was top 10 fights of the year, top 10 fights I've ever seen in my life. Might be fight of the year. Am I wrong? Anybody disagree?
I think it's top 10 in the year. I don't know if it's top 10 ever. It's a really good fight, though.
It was a great fight.
I'll be honest, Chandler impressed me in that fight. I never thought Chandler wasn't tough or anything like that, but Chandler showed me something different in that fight than I thought he had. And Gaethje, I think Gaethje looked great. I think Gaethje looked every bit as, the number 1 contender probably after the next fight. He should be next up in line for a title shot. I think that fight went similarly to we all thought it was going to. They went in and they just went in and banged, man. It was a good fight, start to finish. I still hate that it was, that let off. But now that you said that, I hadn't read that yet, so that totally makes sense. So I rewatched the Canelo fight, and that was actually a good fight too.
It was a good fight, but that fight was way better. I'll take that 3 rounds over Canelo.
Oh no, I agree. I agree 100%. 100%.
One of the things I looked at in that fight, in the Gaethje versus Chandler fight, was I thought Gaethje almost got knocked out in the first round, like completely. Like he was out on his feet. Chandler caught him flush, and Gaethje's legs were wobbling. And I'm like, man, this fight's going to end in the first round. And I felt like they both got to the point where they were numb. Like they couldn't get knocked out. Like Chandler was just walking in like, God, hit me. Like his face looked awful afterwards.
Well, they kind of said it going in, like that they were going to be like that way in a sense that, you know, they were going to lay everything out on the line, and they both admitted, you know, before the fight that they didn't think that it would go the distance because both of them were just going to be absolutely crazy throughout the whole entire fight. And I definitely want to give Michael Chandler his credit for being as tough as he was, because I mean Justin Gaethje was, you know, countering him with some amazing strikes. But to your point though, Gene, I do want to give Gaethje credit too, because that first round definitely looked like he was going to get put out a little bit early. But
oh man,
Gaethje definitely deserves the next shot at the title, and I don't think there's too much question in it. I mean, more so the question I guess is what happens next for Chandler. But I know what I want to happen next, but we'll see what actually happens.
What do you want to happen next?
I mean, it seems like Michael Chandler clearly is exciting. People want to see him fight. I feel like his next fight should be against Conor McGregor.
He called Conor out today, so.
Did he really?
He called Conor out, and Conor actually responded saying that sometime in 2022 they would fight. So I think a lot of that's going to depend on what Dana wants to do at this point.
Probably also depends too how long they want to wait on Conor. Like, I don't know what his recovery time looks like. I don't know if Chandler would want to wait like 8 months, 9 months if he can get back in and, you know, get his money as you would.
I agree. I think how long it takes Conor to come back is a factor there, and I also think it matters what happens with Poirier and Oliveira next month. So obviously, if Poirier wins that fight, it's going to be real hard for Dana not to put them back in the cage especially the way after the last fight ended. If not, then yeah. I mean, I think Conor Chandler is a great first fight back for Conor. I don't think he's going to have to worry about too much wrestling because I think Chandler's going to go with the same attitude that fight that he did with this one. They're just going to go in and bang and see what happens.
The only thing I regret, I'm sorry. The only thing I regret in this fight was it wasn't 5 rounds.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking back at that comment, I would have loved to see 10 more minutes of that fight. I think somebody probably would have got finished. But with it only being a 15-minute fight, too, I think that lends itself to them both going in with that mindset that, you know, we can go balls to the wall for 15 minutes, and if somebody gets finished, they get finished. If not, there's not a real worry about pacing or running out of gas, especially with those two guys.
See, I think that the next fight for Michael Chandler is Islam. I really do. I think Makhachev has to get a fight, and I think his next fight needs to be someone in the top 4 or 5.
If I'm Michael Chandler, I want no parts of that.
Doesn't matter. He has to fight. Then who's he going to fight? Beneil Dariush? Who? He's got to fight somebody.
But I mean,
if he waits for Conor, he gets paid though. That's the thing.
I get that, and I understand. But like, all right. So what's your next fight for Islam Makhachev? Is it Beneil Dariush? Is it the loser of Poirier versus Oliveira?
I think that's what it should be.
Okay. I just, he's got to fight someone, and I think Chandler would be that guy because of the wrestling background. Like, I think that would be like styles make fights, right? You know.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. I'm not saying I don't want to see that fight. I'm saying from Chandler's point of view, career-wise, if he takes that fight and loses that fight, he kind of slides like that. That would hurt him and Conor, and he slides down the rankings significantly then if he loses that fight.
Doesn't matter what fight he loses. He loses the fight to Conor or Islam, he slides down the rankings. That'd be 3 straight losses in the UFC for him.
But if you're going to lose,
he's sliding down regardless.
But if you lose 3 straight on your 3rd loss, you might as well make like $5 million versus 1.
100%. That makes sense. That makes sense. For Chandler, I just don't know if it makes sense for the UFC.
I mean,
I think Gaethje Conor is more entertaining than Chandler Conor.
It is, but it's always tough to tell with Conor because Dana eventually kind of gives him what he wants to do. So again, I think if Poirier wins the belt, it's going to be really hard for Dana. Conor's going to be in his ear immediately, and it's going to be really hard for Dana not to give him that fight. I would love to see Conor Gaethje. I would love to see Conor Chandler. I'd love to see both those fights. Obviously, whatever fight Conor's in is going to make Dana a lot of money. It's kind of a matter of what Dana wants to do and how he wants to position everybody. So I don't disagree with you. Conor's just a wild card in that because, like I said, him and Dana are tight, and Conor always seems to kind of get what he wants to do in the end.
Okay. I mean, I get it. So let's move on the card. You got Thug Rose defended her title. She got a W versus Weili Zhang. Obviously, there's scorecards that went two different ways, 3-2 either way. It was a split decision. I think that the one judge that scored it 49-46 needs to be disbarred. But that's just my opinion. With that being said, I can't argue that. Like, my whole rule is, in order to be the champion, you have to beat the champion. And she didn't beat the champion. So as much as I had it scored 3-2 Zhang, I agree with the scoring. I agree with the win for Rose, because you can't leave that to chance. You can't leave that, especially if you got knocked out the first time they fought. Regardless of how I feel about that knockout, she lost the fight. You have to go in there and take the fight to her. And she did. The first 2 rounds, she was winning. No one's arguing after 3 rounds she's winning that fight 2-1. The problem is, or maybe even 3-0, but the problem is the 4th and 5th round, the championship rounds, Rose put her on her back and she couldn't get up.
Yeah.
When Rose went to wrestling and put her on her back, that fight dramatic. Like, she didn't even do anything on the ground. Like, the 5th round, there was no damage dealt. It was literally her laying on top of her for the whole 5th round, but there was no movement. And for Rose, that's how you win that fight. What were your thoughts on the fight? I had it 3-2 Zhang. However, I agree with the decision being for Rose, because Rose is the champion.
I definitely had it 3-2 for Rose. I thought she won the 2nd round, she won the 4th round, and she won the 5th round. But I think what was interesting about it was how ill-prepared Zhang was to wrestle. I mean, being in camp with Henry Cejudo, you'd have thought that she had a little bit more of a background in the wrestling aspect of it, but that really wasn't the case. Pat Barry and his team definitely took care of Rose and made sure she was very comfortable on the ground. But I mean, both of them are tough, and it was a fight. It was a good fight. It didn't quite live up to my expectations.
No.
Just because I thought it was going to be a little bit more exciting, especially with both of them. You could tell Zhang, she was a little bit more timid with some of how she was moving, like, towards Rose. Like, she didn't want to get caught with anything. She was doing a lot of reading, feeling what was going on between the two. And for Rose, it was a little bit of the same. She didn't quite want to get caught with anything, but she also wanted to get close enough where, she could get her taken down to the ground if she felt like she needed to score some points. So it was a decent fight, but I thought it could have been better.
I disagree with you. I think that Zhang did not take the fight to Rose. I thought Rose was looking for a fight the whole time.
No, she was, but she was counter striking. She was looking for the counter strike.
So I think you really learn a lot about a fighter after their first knockout. And that was Zhang's first knockout when she got knocked out by Rose. When she fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk, they banged.
Yep.
Like, they went at it. And and she wasn't worried about the knockout. She was punching so hard, they were going back and forth.
Yep.
So after her first knockout, she got into that fight, and you said it perfectly. She looked scared of the knockout. She was always looking for the kick. She was always prepared for the kick. She even got one of her takedowns off the kick because you could tell she was looking for it. And you make a perfect point, a brilliant point about her wrestling. When she was on top, her wrestling was great. She just had I don't think in her head, I don't think her camp prepared at all for Rose being on top. Yeah. Correct. I think they thought that Rose would try to keep the fight away from the ground. She wouldn't try to take down, and they prepared for Zhang being on top. But with that being said, as close as the fight was, I agree with the decision. Charlie, what are your thoughts on it?
I think you both just made really, really great points. I agree with Cottrell. I thought Rose won 2, 4, and 5. And Gene, I'm an enormous proponent of what you just said. I think you always see it. The great fighters, after they get knocked out, they get back in the cage and they look the same. Most fighters can't do that. Most fighters look timid, or you could tell it's always on their mind about what happened. And again, to your point, I think you saw that a little bit. We know Rose wants to counter strike. That's what she wants to do. She wants to sit in the pocket and then counter strike and move out. She's great at it. Zhang wasn't as aggressive in this fight as she was in the first fight, and I definitely think that played into it. And to the wrestling point, I 100% agree with that as well. I'm shocked that being in Henry's camp, they were not prepared for that, especially as a big a part of his fighting repertoire as it was. I was shocked to see her just kind of lay there and not even try to get off her back. The fifth round was a little.
She tried.
Yeah,
she just couldn't.
Yeah, for as great of a fighter as she is, and she's a great fighter. She is. I mean, she's elite. To see that, in the fifth round, for me was a little disappointing. I really thought she was going to get back on her feet and at least make Rose really, really win out, finish the round strong and, and win that round and really claim her belt. But it's, we've talked about it before. We've talked about it with John Jones. We've talked about it with other fights. It's the champion's advantage. And that is, and I 100% agree with you on that as well, Gene. Like, if you want to go in and win a 5-round fight, you have to make it definitive and beat the champ. Because if not, the champ's going to get the benefit of the doubt most of the time. So I thought it was a close fight. It wasn't as entertaining, obviously, as the first one, but that was a lot of that was due to the knockout. And I think both fighters went in that cage and they were a little bit more cautious this time. It was a good fight. It was a good championship fight. Probably just not a highlight reel type thing that we thought we were going to get. Yeah. So, but it was a good co-main event. I mean, can't really complain about it.
Got to get into two things with the Colby Covington Kamaru Usman fight. The first thing I want to get into is the fight. I thought it. I mean, honestly, it went almost exactly the way I thought it would. Kamaru Usman came out and dominated the first few rounds. He probably won the first 3. Colby, in the end of the third round, you could tell got a little bit more pizzazz, and Colby won the last 2 rounds. Colby looked really good in the championship rounds. With that being said, I think that it was scored perfectly. I thought that, both of them can tell they have chins. It's a good fight. It was a great 5-round fight.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. No one shied away from contact. It wasn't a hold them down and anything like that. I thought it was the second best fight of the evening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of agree with you on that point, and I definitely thought it was interesting that after the fight was over, you saw Colby and Kamaru embrace, and, just they had that mutual respect for each other. And to see Kamaru and Colby in the cage again, I mean, I thought it was going to be a split decision, and that fight was, almost to the T of how I thought it was going to go. But it was interesting that Colby, he wasn't quite successful with his takedowns. He technically didn't score one, but he's had Kamaru as close to taking down as I've seen anybody.
Do you think that was a takedown?
I do. I thought it was.
I do too.
I thought it was.
I
think they were just saving the spotlight for Kamaru.
For a real,
to keep that.
But I think they were saving it for a career.
For him to get scooped,
yeah,
something like that.
But man, that's a takedown in my book.
Yeah, definitely thought it was a takedown in my book too. And then with Colby, his striking, he's not the guy that knocks you out. He's just gonna keep putting strikes on you. So, I mean,
I think he would have knocked out a lot of people on that night. I disagree. I think that Colby can knock people out. I just think Kamaru
no. He can knock people out, but Kamaru, he wasn't. I don't think he was knocking Kamaru out with what he had, and it's really for him. It's such a shame because he's definitely the second best welterweight, in the division. And if Kamaru wasn't in this division, pretty much any era, Colby's probably a champion at some point.
Honestly,
I think Kamaru gatekeeping that.
Kamaru needs to go somewhere else. Maybe 185. My thought process for that going forward is there needs to be a round robin type deal with Colby Covington, Leon Edwards, and Jorge Masvidal. I want to see all 3 of them fight each other.
If I'm Leon, I don't touch Colby or Jorge. With him, especially with him pulling out now.
Leon signed to fight Jorge.
Yeah, no, but I know, but I'm just saying, at this point, I'm not waiting around for Masvidal to come back. I'm next in line for the belt. Masvidal's got to fight Colby or figure out what he's doing next.
I mean, I get it. I just, it's a shame that Jorge got injured.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Shally, what are your thoughts on the championship fight?
I mean, I think you guys covered this one pretty damn well too. I agree that I think Kamaru definitely won the first 3, and I think Colby looked great the last 2 rounds. I almost think I feel like Colby had that in him before that, and I feel like he almost waited too long to turn it on. He clearly wasn't tired. He had plenty of gas left. I would have loved to have seen that earlier in the fight and maybe push Usman a little bit more in the middle rounds, and then see where you're at in the 5th round.
See where
Yeah, I agree. I think he let Usman get too comfortable in the first 2 rounds, to be honest. I think it was part of his game plan to kind of like, I don't want to say rope a dope, but kind of absorb it all and not get finished and then, pull the old back door, in the 5th round. And it almost worked. And to both of your points, I agree. I feel, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Colby, his best 2 fights he's ever fought are against Usman. And if he's not fighting them, minus prime GSP and maybe a prime Hughes, he's beaten every other welterweight on the planet. I don't know where he goes from here. He's in a really tough spot. And to the Leon Edwards thing, I think Jorge pulling out today is probably best case scenario for him. And I agree. I said it before. I wouldn't have taken the Masvidal fight. You took forever to get your shot and finally get there. And that was a real risky fight to fight before getting your title shot. I would
give Leon Comoro and then give Colby Masvidal. I'd still pay to see that fight.
Oh, I'm all in on that fight. I'm just saying, strictly from Leon's point of view, I'm not taking any other fight. I'm waiting for Kamaru at this point. And to your point, Gene, I agree. If he beats Leon Edwards, which I think he's going to be a big favorite to do, and I would be shocked if he doesn't. And that's no disrespect towards Leon Edwards. I agree. He's got to do something else. And I know the 185 thing is an issue because he doesn't want to fight Izzy, but after he beats Edwards, there's nothing left for him there. He's beat Masvidal. He's beat Colby twice now. Masvidal still hasn't woken up from the knockout. I don't know what he's going to do to Leon Edwards. There's no big fight for him at 170 that makes any kind of sense to me as a fan that you're going to sell it to me as a competitive fight. He's just that far ahead of everybody else. And I know we said it in the preview show. I think you really have to start giving him his due and really starting to. He's climbing those rankings very fast all time.
Yeah,
he's beating very good to elite fighters every time in the cage now, and he's doing it convincingly for the most part.
Agreed. I just want to answer one question that was on the wire line. The Toxic merch was right after the Eagles tailgate, which was this past Sunday. So anything we have left over was the people that won the Toxic merch will be getting that. I'll be talking to Mike after the show about that. So for people listening, I know Michael Robert Lafferty was just asking. There's a couple others. The tailgate was just a Sunday. Huge success. Had a great time. The second thing I want to talk about this fight before we wrap up UFC is, before I say this, is Colby Covington's anybody's? You got to be kidding me before I move forward.
Not mine.
Okay. He was close to being mine for the comments after the fight. It's all for money. It's all for show. And he got caught on mic saying that. And then he gets in the press conference and runs his mouth again. I'm like, dude, listen, if you don't know Colby Covington's story, he was going to get cut from the UFC because they said he was too boring.
Yep.
And then this facade came out of who he is. And it's entertaining. It is. But you can't deviate from the facade. It's like walking around Sesame Park when you're friggin' Big Bird without the hat on. You can't do that. You can't do that. And you can't get caught on mic saying that shit. Do that shit backstage.
It's like when you people. It's people compare it all the time to WWE, and it's the same way. It's like watching those guys on TV when they're in character, and then you see them on the street or whatever, and they're out of character, and they're totally different people than what you think, and then people get pissed. But it's the same thing, like you said. You can't break character on camera or on mic if that's what you want to do. If you want to sell that and be that guy and that's your shtick, as much as I don't agree with it, I get it. I get it from, like Gene said, selling yourself. And that's kind of what rejuvenated his career.
100%.
So I get it, but you got to stay in character. You can't be this Trump loving right guy that rubs people the wrong way. And then, there's a hot mic around and you're, oh man, you're the best, no disrespect, you can't be the lovey-dovey, sportsman guy. And I believe that's who he really is. That's the thing. But I agree with you. It just can't, you got to be careful if that's what you're selling to fans. Because I'm sure there's a huge part of his fan base that believes that's really who he is.
The other thing, though, too, is that you saw him in the cage after the fight. I touched on it a little bit, but him embracing Kamaru after and, you could tell there was no ill will in that conversation. So you kind of already, like, if you didn't know already that Colby wasn't that guy that he's been portraying himself to be, you kind of got a little taste of that after that fight. You know, you're like, okay, these guys don't actually hate each other. There is a mutual respect there. But 100% though, I do agree. You can't have it. You just have to be cognizant of what's around you. Like
even the ref said, like,
he said, you guys can go kiss
later.
Yeah, you guys can
go
hug
kiss
and
in the locker
later.
room. He like I actually feel like he knew this just shouldn't be happening. There's a mic around, dude. Shut up. Like I actually felt like that. Like I don't know.
I will say just the last thing. It was definitely impressive how. So Trevor Whitman trained Kamaru, Justin Gaethje, and Rose Namajunas, and all three of them won. That's doing all three of them in the same night, so impressive, and you know that camp's clearly special. So
I mean, obviously,
it's nuts, absolutely nuts.
All right, so we got to move on. I mean, we're already like way into the show. NCAA Rankings Week 2 came out. We'll get the graphic put up in a minute. What I wanted to do this week, instead of doing the full 25, is I just popped the first 7 up. I got the graphic of the top 7. You don't mind throwing that up for me on the screen? I think that this would be the crux of our conversation. And I think that this should be the crux of our conversation. I think this is, good material. Obviously,
I mean, I was just saying, I would have gone to 8 because obviously, I mean, that's going to be part of this argument. But
give me a graphic that has 8. I couldn't find one. I wish I had 8.
They didn't make it.
I hear you. I mean, we're going to talk about these 7 teams, and obviously the team that's at number 8. Anything below that, I feel is kind of inconsequential at this point, anyway. So,
yeah, no, I agree with you. I still think it was interesting how Michigan State lost to Purdue, which is not a bad team. Obviously, they've beat the number 2 team in the country twice now, but still remains 7 over an undefeated Oklahoma team. Michigan State, who beat Michigan head-to-head, is number 7 and Michigan's number 6. I don't get that. Cincinnati, being 5 is laughable to me, and Alabama now falling down from 2 after another scare versus an unranked opponent. It really just bothers me to my core looking at these rankings. And I know they'll get sorted out, and hopefully they get fixed by the end of the year, and eventually it gets to what it needs to be at. But like, there's so many things I find wrong with this.
I mean, Alabama being high is, I think we're all going to agree there. They shouldn't be at 2. My whole issue right now is the 6 and 7. You can't tell me that the not neutral, but the head-to-head wins they're not the end-all be-all when you have Oregon at 3 and Ohio State at 4, and then you have Michigan at 6 and Michigan State at 7. If I'm Michigan State, I'm wondering why I'm not 6. I mean, I know we just lost to a Purdue team.
Yeah, but Oregon lost to Stanford.
Yeah, Oregon lost to Stanford, and not only that, but Purdue is a ranked team now. So you're telling me that you guys think that Purdue is the 19th best team in the country, and yeah, I know we just lost to them, but we have a win over the people who you think are the 6th best team in the country. Why is that the case? So that's the part that's just so confusing to me. Do head-to-head wins matter, or is it just in certain cases when you want to see who you want to see in the top 4?
Well, I mean, both just touched it already. The problem with this is there's been no consistency, and we're 2 weeks in, and they're using certain criteria for certain teams they want to put certain places and justifying it, and other teams they're not. Michigan State should be ahead of Michigan. I have no problem saying it. They won head-to-head. The only thing I think that even factors into this a little bit, and it shouldn't, as much as it is true, is the Big Ten came out and said that Michigan got screwed out of that touchdown and the referees messed it up, blah 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 blah. It's not going to change the outcome of the game. So Michigan State should be 6, Michigan should be 7, and I'm fine with that. To Cottrell's point, that's all going to sort itself out anyway. Purdue being 19 is them jumping up because they beat Michigan State. And I said this earlier, it's because they're playing Ohio State this week. It gives Ohio State another ranked win if they win at home this week. This is what the Big 5 bias in that room does. You get these guys bumped up, makes people's resumes look better. No different than last week with Minnesota. That was my number one thing. Gene sent it to me. I said, my number one thing on this list is Minnesota and Wisconsin should not be ranked. Minnesota gets spanked at home by a crappy team. All that was there was to make Ohio State look better gave them a ranked win on the resume. And that's not Ohio State's fault. I'm just saying that is the Big Five bias that's in that room. That's why Cincinnati continues to get screwed.
I agreed Cincinnati gets screwed, but Bill, give me 1 second because one of the points that you said I disagree with. I think Purdue deserves to be ranked 19th, and I'll tell you why. So if you have 5 and 3 teams in the top 25, all across Mississippi State was there, and there's a lot of teams that had 3 losses that were in the top 20. Purdue has beat the number 2 team in the country twice now. Like, granted, they have a bad loss or 2 on their resume, but they beat the number 2 team in the country twice now. And when they play Ohio State this week, if they play them close, they'll either earn that ranking, or if they get blown out, they'll fall right back out. Where I agree with you on most aspects of this, and I agree with you about Cincinnati point, I don't agree that Purdue does not deserve to be ranked where they're at. When you beat the number 2 team in the country twice, I feel like you should be a top 20 team.
I was really like the 20th ranked team now. And again, that is Iowa's 2 at that time because they kept winning, and they finally lost. They've lost 2 in a row now, or 2 out of 3. I'm not saying Purdue shouldn't be ranked. I'm saying I don't think they should be that high. And again, you say they have a bad loss or 2. They have 3. So, it's there's just no. My bigger thing is the consistency. And again, and I'm not saying Purdue is the best example of it, but Minnesota was. Minnesota had no business being ranked in the top 25 last week. None.
I completely agree with you.
And what I'm saying is the Big Ten, the SEC. You just mentioned it. You have Mississippi State. All these teams. In the SEC, even that have 3 losses, they're all bunched in the top 25, and they're all in there because every time they play Alabama or Georgia or one of these other teams, they're just going to get another quality win, and that's what they're there for. I mean, people just don't want to come out and say it. They're not going to come out and admit it because it just puts a huge hole in their rankings. My second biggest gripe with this is, Gene, you kind of touched on it already. The committee's, reasoning for keeping Cincinnati number 5 was they struggled. Okay, well, Ohio State struggled. Oregon struggled again. Alabama struggled again. And Alabama still doesn't have a quality win. Alabama's best win at this point is a 4-5 Florida team right now. And they almost lost to a 3-win LSU team. But they stay 2, and Ohio State jumps up. So if we're going to keep it real and we're going to keep it 100% honest, I don't know how Cincinnati's not in the top 4.
Agreed.
Well, I mean,
it's ridiculous at this point.
I'm not saying Ohio State should have been the team to jump up, but somebody had to jump up with Michigan State losing. And then you had Ohio State at 5 last week, so they would have. I feel like they couldn't have justified just going based on their own rankings here. This isn't me agreeing or disagreeing with them. I would have had a hard time like reasoning with them. Like, so Ohio State wins, Oregon wins, and we were ahead of Cincinnati last week. Why aren't we ahead of them? They struggled just like how we struggle. Why wouldn't we stay ahead of them? And Michigan
You should
State
have been ahead of them
lost.
last week.
No. I'm not disagreeing with that point. I'm just saying, if you're basing it off of the week 1 rankings, if the 3 teams ahead of Cincinnati they won last week, and 1 team ahead of them lost, I don't know how they all struggled. I don't know how you would say, oh, Cincinnati deserves to go up to 2 or 3 when they struggled just like everybody else struggled.
I know. I just don't understand the struggle is different for Alabama than it is for Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a game where they struggle, or a couple games where they struggle.
Well, Oklahoma doesn't have a quality win. That's their problem.
Neither is Alabama.
I mean, Ole Miss, as much as we don't like Ole Miss is a quality win. Like, I know it's like fun to talk about like the Floridas and, Arkansas just because of how their season has kind of ended up. But, I mean, Ole Miss is still a quality win. Like, Oklahoma doesn't have a win that sniffs Ole Miss right now.
I get it.
All right, well, let me give you a hypothetical. Your best win is who? Penn State?
Sure, yeah. I agree.
Alabama's is Ole Miss.
Okay.
Cincinnati's is Notre Dame on the road. Who's the highest ranked out of the 3 of them? How are they? They're undefeated. How are they undefeated? I mean, they are undefeated. How are they not in the top 4?
Agreed.
I'm not saying that Cincinnati shouldn't be ahead of these guys.
I'm not busting your balls. I'm not busting your balls because I'm not saying you're sitting here on the train saying Ohio State should be 4. Like, you're being unbiased, just like I was earlier. Like Michigan being ahead of Michigan State is a joke. Like, I'll be the first one to admit it. But it's
Quick question for you.
Who are these people in this room that are like making these awful decisions? Like, it's
the director
terrible.
For Oregon, I'm kidding. Just spitball. Your top 4.
I would go
your top 4. I don't care about what the committee says. Your top 4.
Georgia.
Obviously, we'll have Georgia 1. Let's just go 2, 3, 4.
That's so tough.
Georgia's 4.
You want me to go first?
I would go. No,
go.
I can do it. Georgia, Bama, Cincinnati, Oregon.
Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma.
I'm not touching.
Bama.
I'm not. If I'm putting Oklahoma up there, I might as well put UTSA up there.
Oh man, you're an asshole.
I'm going.
I'm just saying.
Not wrong though. Georgia, Cincinnati, Oregon, Ohio State for me.
Georgia, Cincinnati, Oregon, Ohio State. Okay. Yeah,
Alabama kick rocks.
See how your changes?
Yeah.
Can I get the audio of the Roll Tide? We have that in the background.
Wait, I meant to bring this up. I gotta grab it again.
You guys made a big deal about that.
I
don't like Alabama because it was fun. Roll Tide.
Fun. I can't know.
So our show on November 10th last year. Will the committee let in a 1-loss Clemson over an undefeated Cincinnati? It's not Clemson up here anymore, but it's the same story as last year. We're here again.
Argument. It's a same
we're still
argument.
Here a year later.
Still here. And we're going to be here next week, too.
All right, well, let's break down the 4. We got 4 games this week. Might as well break them down real quick. I'll start with the worst one, Purdue at Ohio State. Purdue is coming off an emotional win, beating Michigan State. They're going into Ohio State. This isn't going to be a close game. I didn't want to talk about it, but we always talk about ranked. I think this game's a whitewash. I think Ohio State rolls. It's an emotional letdown for Purdue. Going on the road to Ohio State, no.
I'll let Kachuk go last on this. I do think it's an awful spot for Purdue coming off that win and going on the road to the Horseshoe. I don't think it's a whitewash, though. I don't. The one thing I will say is, and you saw it in the Michigan State game, Michigan State's defense and Ohio State's are not too far apart. I think Purdue will be able to score in that game. I don't know if they're going to stop Ohio State. They're going to get Wilson back, I'm assuming, whatever his, disciplinary BS suspension was. Who knows? We'll never know.
Control knows.
Hey, I mean, I don't
He's
matter.
got people inside the program.
He could have like thrown somebody off a bridge and he'll still play this week. It won't matter.
Oh man. Shots fired.
They're going to win. I mean, I think Ohio State's going to win. I just think it's a closer game. I don't think it's a whitewash, but I do agree. I mean, that was their season last week. Knock it off. It's a real bad spot. I would feel a little better about this if Ohio State had to go to Purdue, but Ohio State going back home after a tough game in Nebraska, home cooking. Like I said, they're going to get Wilson back. Obviously, he didn't throw anybody off a bridge before anybody gets upset. It's not a good spot for Purdue. I think they keep the game close. I think it's competitive. I don't think it's a blowout, but
who's crazy?
I fully expect.
Eric Rosenblum said you are effing crazy. I just want to know who, like, what specifically is he talking about?
That's probably me.
Yeah, break it down, Tro.
I feel like I'm more so leaning towards Gene on this one. I think Purdue can put up points. Problem with Purdue is that they don't have a real running game. So their quarterback Aiden O'Connell, he's a guy, he likes to stretch the field, but they only throw to one receiver. David Bell is the only receiver on the roster. And don't get me wrong, David Bell is special. Like he legit might win the Biletnikoff this year. But the thing is that that's actually Ohio State's strength, I would say, is getting after the quarterback. So I think if you're going to be in situations where you're just passing the ball all game long, those DNs and whoever else is rushing,
Purdue cannot
rushing
run
the
ball.
passer. They're gonna pin their ears back and just go right after the quarterback. So Purdue's a one-dimensional team. I think that plays in favor of Ohio State. I just think it's a bad matchup for them, and I do see Ohio State winning big in this one.
By the way, I completely still agree everything that I've said about Ohio State. They have not looked impressive one time this year versus any really good team. Like, they barely got by Penn State. They barely got by Nebraska at Nebraska. Minnesota gave them all they could handle. Tulsa gave them all they could handle. They lost to Oregon. I still think Ohio State's not that good. But, we'll find out. I mean, I guess they're the tallest midget right now in the Big Ten. But it's not.
Man, talk about midget talk again.
But, I mean.
Before we move on to the next game, can we at least give Purdue credit for running the most well-executed screen pass in the history of college football?
Absolutely.
That was amazing.
5 O-linemen.
I'm telling you, you couldn't run that on Madden. Like, you couldn't get it set up that well on a video game.
Dante said Purdue is better than Nebraska. Purdue has a chance, and I don't think it'll be nowhere near a blowout. We can bet on it, bro. I'll lay the 20.
I agree Purdue's better than Nebraska, but you saw it when we went there and Ohio State went there. When that fan base is engaged and that team plays hard, that is not an easy place to go and win a football game. It's not. It never has been. And then they're better this year. I mean, they've lost. They lost to Ohio State by 10, 9, whatever it was. We beat them by 3. Most of their losses are all one possession games, but I do think Purdue's better than Nebraska. I'm not touching that bet though.
I think it's just funny. Like the parallels between Oklahoma and Ohio State are so similar. It's ridiculous. But Gene loves his Oklahoma.
You know the differences. Ohio State has a loss.
I mean, yeah,
that's the difference. The parallels, you can compare the parallels all day when a team doesn't lose.
I mean, yeah, if you don't play anybody, you're supposed to beat the worst.
Yeah, Ohio State's played real football teams this year.
All right, so
don't make me stand for Ohio State. Just please don't do that.
No, but don't call it a parallel when one.
It is a parallel. They play decent level teams that aren't ranked, and they struggle against them. Or they look great. They look great against them. They play better competition, and they look down earth.
All this Oklahoma stuff is all going to be settled in the next 3 weeks. Everybody's got their panties in a bunch about Oklahoma. They haven't played anybody yet. Like, let's just be honest and put it on the table. They've played nobody of any relevance yet this year. If they win their next 3 games, they will be in the top 4. It'll take care of itself. They have to earn it. They're not deserving at this point. Like, all these people that just want them thrown up there because of who they are the same people that saying Alabama shouldn't be in there with 1 loss because of their name recognition. It's the same goddamn argument. You're using it against yourself. If they beat Baylor, they beat Oklahoma State, they beat Iowa State, Oklahoma will be in the top 4 and go to the college football playoff. They got to earn it. They've played nobody yet. Nobody.
My point is undefeated matters. I've been saying that all year.
So where is
I've been consistent with that all year. UTSA is not in a Big 5 conference.
But they're playing the same level competition as what Kansas. I mean, I can't say UTSA doesn't have a Kansas win on their.
UTSA is not playing the same level competition.
So they don't have a Kansas win on their schedule yet.
Do they have a Texas win on their schedule?
Do they have a 4-4, 4-5?
Texas has a losing record, dude.
On their record?
No, but they're better. If they play UTSA on an open field, on a neutral site, who wins the game?
He's making the comparison. It's the same
I don't
thing.
know.
If Georgia played Kansas,
Steve Scarcesian's got Texas back. They're back. Now they suck. They can't beat UTSA. Get the hell out of here.
I'm not saying that they suck. But
said it on me.
I'm not saying
that's what I'm talking to.
I'm not saying that they suck. What my point is, clearly the football team can play. They just can't hold a lead.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. If they knew how to finish games, Texas would be 8-1 right now, and we're having a whole different conversation.
I agree with you.
So them being back is a whole separate thing than them just sucking. That's not what I'm saying. But to say that they don't have like any wins, like, I mean, you see they got a Big Ten win against Illinois, conference, the AAC win against Memphis. Like, they have decent wins. I'm not saying that they're Texas or some of the other schools in the Big 12. Point is, Oklahoma hasn't played anybody yet, and if undefeated matters so much, you might as well throw UTSA higher in the conversation than what they have been.
I think after Oklahoma beats Baylor at Baylor this week, we won't be having this conversation that much. But
you won't. They're gonna.
Then they got 2 more weeks that they got to do it.
They will. I think their biggest test is Iowa State, in my opinion.
And the 3 Big Ten. The 3 Big Ten schools all play each other in the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that. Michigan, Penn State's next on the docket.
They're going to have no problem moving up. And again, Michigan State, Michigan.
Michigan's going to be moving down after this week. Penn State's going to beat them. Happy Valley, bro. Not where Michigan wants to be at. That defense is going to suffocate Michigan, bro.
Noon kickoff.
Doesn't matter.
And our defense will suffocate Penn State. They score 17 points. I'll be shocked.
I'll take the over.
All right. I'll take the W.
You're not getting it. You're not getting it this week. Penn State's going to beat Michigan. That's one of my picks this week. I'll tell you right now.
Mine too.
I'm glad. Go with your team.
I'm picking this game too.
Yeah, I'm all over Penn State this week. Penn State wins this game versus Michigan. I think they win it with their defense. I think, I think it's going to be a 23-17 win. Penn State. That's my pick. I say it right now.
I think Michigan wins the game.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily – I'm not going to say it's not close, but I just don't think Penn State is going to be able to not turn the ball over against that Michigan team. I do think it's going to be a situation where Blake Corum was probably going to struggle a little bit, but eventually he's going to, get his yards down the field. What it's going to come down to is Cade McNamara is going to have to make some plays on the field. He's going to have to make some throws into some tight windows, especially down the stretch. 4-minute, maybe lead a 4-minute offense, something like that. And I trust him more than I trust Sean Clifford. So
whose defense do you trust more?
I trust Penn State's defense.
Okay, that's where I'm at. I get you, and I agree with you. I would trust Cade McNamara more than I trust Clifford.
But here's the thing, though. As the old saying goes, offense wins games.
Defense wins championships.
This is no championship here, so I'm rocking with Michigan.
All right, I see you. Shally, give me you want to break this down?
This is easy. I mean, Penn State has the slightly better defense. Michigan has an enormous lead on the offensive side of the ball. It's not even close. We've talked about it all year long. It's not even close. They have 2 running backs that can hurt you. They got emergence of 3 young wide receivers. Cade McNamara is far superior than Sean Clifford. They will score points. McNamara had it coming out party against Michigan State.
I need this on recording.
That's fine. Well, listen, when Penn State loses again, you can just go back to being a fair weather fan and not talking about them for the rest of the year like you always do.
Damn
you
right.
talk about it for the first 6 weeks. You fly the Penn State flag, go Lions, and then they lose,
I've been Georgia all year. I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan.
Even better. Front runner, my best, my favorite.
Damn right. In college football, I pick the team I picked to win it all, and Penn State are the two teams.
At this point in the year, Gene's going to the Wild in all black.
Correct.
He's dressing for James Franklin's funeral at this point.
I can't wait till he's gone.
And that's
I actually prefer Michigan win the game because then better chance Franklin's gone.
That's what it's going to be next Wednesday. It's going to be Gene will go right into his James Franklin shtick next week. It won't be anything about the game. Like,
it's not a
Franklin
stick.
sucks. He can't
You
do
calling
this.
him Colby?
He sucks.
You saying
He's
this
gotta
stick?
go.
You saying when we get off the
Yeah,
air, he's going to
stick.
be a James Franklin fan?
Yeah,
Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Yeah, he signed my hat one time in a game. He's a really nice guy.
I'll be rooting.
He recruited
for,
me to be the water boy one year.
I'll be
he
rooting
recruited
for,
me. I almost went there.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'll be rooting for Michigan in the game because I want Franklin gone, but I think Penn State wins the game because I think Michigan's a fraud.
Saturday night when it's dark out, Gene will officially go out front. He'll take down the Penn State flag while nobody's looking, and then everybody will wake up Sunday morning and the Georgia flag will be flying in the air.
Flag's been flying all year,
He's
bro.
going to have a Bulldog gnome.
That Bulldog's flag's been flying all year.
He'll have the big Bulldog inflatable up in his Christmas display out
I
front.
have it already.
It'll be full Georgia. It'll be full Georgia next week. Penn State or Michigan wins the game 27-13. Outside Jahan Doxson, they have no offense. They can't run the ball, which means Hutchinson and Adabo are just going to pin their ears back. They're going to put Sean Clifford on his ass. He's probably not going to finish the game. Cade McNamara will have about 250, 270 yards passing. Corum and Haskins get going on the ground. Michigan wins. Next game, let's go.
That's probably the most I've seen Bill fired up so far.
I love
year.
it.
It's the first time on this show that I am picking them in a big game, which means they're going to shit the bed. Penn State's going to win 30-10, and I'm not coming on the air next week.
I am proud. I am proud that I got him to this level.
Yeah,
I'll take credit for that.
That's
3 unassisted.
And you got him there with no voice. You're not even really bringing the energy. You're getting
I
out of
have
him.
the energy. I just don't have the voice to bring it.
Yeah.
The next game I want to kind of skim through real quick is A&M versus Ole Miss. And the only reason I want to skim through it is I think the winner of this game has a chance of making a New Year's Day Super 6. The loser of this game completely eliminates that opportunity, in my opinion.
Yep.
Who do you think wins the game? And let's get through this one quick.
I would go with A&M on this one. I think that the defense will come to play. They're finding a way to stop Matt Corral, similar to what Auburn did last week. A&M is a team that I haven't been high on their offense so far, but they've been finding ways to get the job done. I mean, their defense keeps it, low enough scoring where the offense doesn't have to go out and put up 28, 35 points a game. But I think A&M will come up with the strategy to slow down Matt Corral and that Ole Miss offense.
At home, they're Bama. On the road, they're Georgia State. I'm serious. A&M's playing on the road. They're playing Ole Miss. Ole Miss wins this game. A&M's big wins are at home. They got to play on the road. I don't like them in this spot. I don't think they'll be able to score with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss wins the game 31-20. That was quick.
A&M 28, Ole Miss 24. I kind of agree with Cottrell. I think A&M gets enough stops. The defense is solid enough to travel on the road and probably weather the storm. Listen, Ole Miss has got a couple injuries. Matt Corral's great. I love watching the kid play, but it's a Matt Corral show. You stop Matt Corral.
A lot of talk about the faucets in the background.
I know. Got lots of faucets. What do you guys want?
Bill's fired up. Maybe it's those faucets behind him.
It is. It's got faucet energy. So, again, I think A&M wins. I do agree. I think it's a kind of elimination game. So I think whoever wins this game probably plays in a New Year's Six Bowl, gets the old big payday from the college TV rights, and the loser can just go back to not mattering.
The other thing that I just wanted to add real quick is that since that Alabama game, this Texas A&M team has had an identity, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm confident in them. I understand that their big wins have happened with them being at home, but I think with them having that identity, them having that confidence that they're a top 15 team in the country, I'd like them to go into Ole Miss and take care of business. And at this point, Ole Miss is reeling. I mean, struggled clearly against Auburn, and they've been struggling the past few weeks. So
let's talk about Oklahoma beating Baylor. I'm sorry, Oklahoma at Baylor. Anybody have a different opinion than me?
No,
I do.
I love it.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I'm not saying Baylor's going to win the game.
What?
I think Baylor covers.
5.5?
I think Baylor covers. 6.5.
Okay.
I think Baylor covers. I think the worst thing for Oklahoma was Baylor losing last week to TCU. They're going to go home. Listen, this game has everything right on. Baylor's in the same boat as A&M and Ole Miss. If they win this game, they probably have a real legit shot of making a New Year's Six Bowl. If not, it's 2 in a row. They might not even be ranked next week, depending on how the outcome of the game is. I think they keep it close, playing in front of their home fans. Again, and I've seen nothing from Oklahoma. No indicators that Oklahoma is going to go to Baylor and blow them out. None. Haven't seen it all year. They beat.
Not a blowout.
They beat. Well, there's nothing. They've shown me nothing for me to have overwhelming confidence that they're going on the road and winning that game. None.
42-31 Oklahoma.
I think Oklahoma wins a tight game. I do like the high scoring aspect of it. I probably would go 41-38 Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma covers that. Baylor's a real run-heavy team. I don't love their quarterback, Bohannon. I mean, he throws the deep ball, but that's really about it. I mean, they'll use him a little bit sparingly in the rushing game, but Abram Smith's their lead back. Tyquan Thornton is their one big play receiver, so if Bohannon's stretching the field, it's probably going to Thornton. But this Baylor team, they're so hard to gauge. I mean, they looked good earlier on in the season, but, I mean, outside of having the big plays, I just don't love that Baylor offense. And I think to beat Oklahoma, you're going to have to pass the ball a lot because it's going to be a shootout. So you got to get points and get points fast to match Caleb Williams and Oklahoma offense. So
I love Caleb Williams. He's getting better and better each week.
He's a good player. True freshie.
I love him. Love him. Let's get into pick 'em. Shal, you're remote. Why don't you go first?
All right. Well, I mean, we already talked about both games I'm picking. Michigan minus 1.5. You already heard my thoughts on that game. I'm taking Michigan. I think they win. I think they win by 10 to 13 points. Next game I'm picking is Baylor plus 6.5. Not saying they win the game outright. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I don't think they get blown out at home. Caleb Williams has flashes where he looks amazing, and then he needs, illegal plays to beat Kansas, who's one of the worst teams in Division I. So, again, yes, it was. So inconsistent wise, inconsistent, kind of Cottrell's point is the name of that game. Baylor stuff to figure out, and Oklahoma, you just don't know what you're getting. Are they going to come out and look like they did in the second half against Texas, or are they going to look like the team that played for 3.5 quarters against Kansas? You just don't know. So I'm taking Baylor plus 6.5. And my super dog this week, I'm actually going to go out on a limb on this one a little bit. Missouri did backdoor cover for me last week, so I hit my super dog last week, giving up 39.5 to Georgia. I'm going to go back to the same well. Tennessee plus 20.5 at home versus Georgia. I will take Tennessee in the points. I think they have an offense that will be able to move the ball at least a little bit. And I think they have a defense with enough athletes that can slow Georgia down a little bit. So I don't think the game's ever in doubt. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to play this for money, don't get crazy and take Tennessee money line or anything like that, because that's not going to happen. I think Georgia wins the game. I just think Tennessee keeps it within 3 scores.
I'm excited about my picks.
I could tell.
I got Penn State plus 1.5. I think Penn State wins the game. I think Penn State, like I said, 23-17. Penn State's my pick. When was the last time college football had a better football game on Thursday night than the NFL? Because there's normally never a really good one. Tomorrow night, there's a really good one.
Who's the NFL game?
It's Baltimore at Miami.
Blech.
Tomorrow night, UNC, and there's going to be a ton of scouts there. UNC at Pitt.
Howie's
going to be there. Sam Howell versus Kenny Pickett. I like the over 73 in that game. I really do. I think that's going to be a really high scoring game. Neither one of those defenses can stop anyone. I think that was proven multiple weeks with Pitt. Just, they lost the game to Miami, and they almost lost a few other games. The game with Tennessee was amazing. It was back and forth the whole game. UNC's proven that too. They can't stop anybody. I think both these teams are going to score. I think Pitt, and I think this game might be 55-52. Might be a hell of a football game. And
is that game at Heinz Field or is it at Pitt?
I don't know. I know it's at Pitt, but I don't know if it's at Pitt or at Heinz Field.
And anybody that's listening to this show, if you are in the Pittsburgh area and you're going to this game, if you see Howie Roseman, I need you to pick him up and throw him in the Allegheny River.
He'll be in a box. There's no way you're going to see him.
That's all I need him to do. That's all I need you to do. You can come on the show. We'll give you some merch. That's all we have to give you right now.
You can't, Bill, you can't give people money to physically assault people. You're not allowed
There's
to do
no
that.
money. No money.
Well, merch.
Sweatshirts and hoodies. That's all we got.
All right.
Hoodies
Arizona.
and t-shirt.
My super dog this week is Arizona plus 24.5 at home versus Utah. I think that I think Arizona put strings together a close game. They're not going to beat Utah, but I think they only lose the game by 13. So I get 11. I pick up 11 wins there.
I'm laughing over here because it's funny that, and I'm not saying that can't happen, but it's just funny that Arizona wins one game and now we're like, you know what? Maybe this team isn't so bad now. But real quick, I did want to give credit. I just listened back to our show right before I came in. Quick credit to Bill, who said if the over under for the Wake Forest North Carolina game was at 100, take the over. And that game was fireworks. But going into my picks for this week, I got the under for Michigan and Penn State. It is at 48.5. I think that under is free money at this point. I think both defenses are going to come to play. I like the over in Nevada at San Diego State. San Diego State is quietly, a top 25 team, and they're pretty solid for what they are. Nevada, they got my boy Carson Strong. I think they're going to put up points in that one. And then my super dog for the week is Colorado plus 16.5 at UCLA. At this point, UCLA is just playing for pride. They got nothing left on the table. It's a Pac-12 matchup. I think that Colorado can go in there and keep that game somewhat close.
Like it. That's our pick'em segment for NCAA.
I saw him play Texas A&M.
All right, so we got to get in the NFL.
Terrible.
Right. So the one game we have to talk about, and listen, I have a public apology to offer. Public apology. I have to apologize to all the Titans fans. I've literally picked against them like 3 straight weeks, and they've literally beaten the shit out of me 3 straight weeks. Titans fans, I apologize. I will not be picking your games for at least a little while.
7 to 10 business days.
Well, I mean, I might pick their game this week, but I'm not picking the winner or loser. So they went into L.A. last week without Derrick Henry, and they won the football game. I mean, I got to give them all the credit in the world, man. Mike Grable's got those guys playing really good football. So Shout out. I apologize, Joseph Jeffers. You're for free to take me out back and kick me in the nads. But the Saints play the Titans this week. I think this is going to be the ugliest game of the week as far as, oh my God. I think this game is going to be 15-9. I'm not kidding. I really do. I think this game's going to be a knockdown, drag it out, boxers punching each other. Tennessee's defense got for real like overnight. I don't know what the hell happened.
No clue.
Let's talk about that game. Saints at Titans. Who you got?
I'm going to roll with the Saints in that one. I know you just said it. I picked against them last week as well, but I don't think that Saints defense and I mean, I guess it could happen if it happened to Matt Stafford. You know, Trevor Siemian could easily go out and throw 2 interceptions early on, but I don't see that happening with the Saints. It seems like I know they had a blunder against Atlanta and they almost came back and had that game turn around, but I trust that Saints defense. I think they're going to be able to hone in on Ryan Tannehill, and I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to move the ball down the field on them.
Who's starting for New Orleans this week? Is it Taysom Hill or Siemian?
I would assume it's still Siemian, but who knows?
I mean, it
with
would
Sean
be
Payton.
amazing would Taysom Hill like not be the starter at this point.
I mean,
like Trevor Siemian's not our starter. Come on,
well,
dude.
Taysom had a concussion, so he was out for like 3 weeks, and this past week was his first game back. And you know, granted, he ran a lot of wrinkles in there, and he scored a touchdown.
Why wouldn't he be the starter? Trevor Siemian stinks.
I mean, he beat the Bucks on the stretch.
I mean, I get it. I don't think he beat the Bucks. I think the Bucks beat the Bucks, and I think the Saints defense beat the Bucks. But that's not for here nor there. But you have the Saints in this one because of their defense.
I do.
I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag it out fight. I'm not picking the winner of this game because I think it might go one way, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Shally, what's your thoughts?
I think Tennessee wins a low-scoring game. I think you're going to see Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian. I think you're going to see both of them. I don't know. I'm not really. It's hard to gauge what to expect from them. They're going to run one package with Hill. Obviously, they'll go back to their normal offense with Siemian. And either way, I don't know how well they're going to move the ball against Tennessee's defense, who, like you already said, is playing a lot better. I do think Tennessee's going to struggle to move the ball against New Orleans. We've already seen how good that offense is the last couple of weeks, and they're playing well. So Tennessee's health will be a factor in that. I'm assuming Julio and AJ are both going to play. AP is a game under his belt now. We'll see. I mean, I think it's if you're an old school football fan, I think this is the game to watch this week. I think it's going to be a low scoring defensive battle. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be a bunch of fireworks in that game. So if you're a fan of that type of old school football, this is probably the game for you this week.
Next thing on the dock, it's Browns at Pats. Browns at Pats. Browns had a huge win last week versus Cincinnati. Pats made me look like an asshole at Carolina. Seriously, I mean, it's just, at this point, Patriots, they're for real. They are. And I thought that, traveling, winning a game, traveling across coast, winning a game, and then traveling back to the East Coast would have been tough for them. That defense travels, man. Bill Belichick's got those guys playing great defense, and Mac Jones is playing efficient football, not turning the ball over. Also, he is UFC fighter, Mac Jones. He has the ankle lock on lock, bro. Brian Burns twisted that ankle up.
Yep.
Submission game's tight.
Did you see Brian Burns tweet it? He goes, the DNs, it's
happy
fair
hunting.
game, happy hunting on Mac Jones. But this is a good game. A lot of sharps right now are on the Browns. A lot of money's coming on the Browns right now.
I mean, you would think that the Browns should win that game based on how they looked against Cincinnati, but I personally don't want to take too much stock in that game because I've seen Baker Mayfield play the Bengals since the start of his career, and every single time he goes up against that team, he has one loss against them. I think he's 6-1 career against the Bengals. Every time he goes up against them, he plays his best football. I don't know what it is about it. Last year after OBJ got hurt, he went out and completed 20 of his next 21 passes. Like, he balls against the Bengals. So I want to see what he has planned for Bill Belichick and his scheme.
Tiny, you're the best. I love you. Baker still sucks. I love her. And Chris Cargan asked, what was the point of giving Taysom Hill all that money if you don't start him? I agree, man. I agree. Shally, what do you think about Browns at Pats?
Yeah, again, I think this is a lower scoring game. I think you're hoping as a Cleveland fan, I mean, and Cottrell would probably relate to this, that defense is starting to turn the corner a little bit. They had Denzel Ward's big pick 6 last week. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, though. I think it's kind of in the same realm as Tennessee, New Orleans. Mac is playing well. Like I said, they just continue to give him more of the offense each and every week. He's real comfortable with what they're asking him to do, and he's efficient. And Bill's going to have, that defense playing like they have the last 4 weeks. New England's one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Nobody's talking about.
Shout out to Dan Orlovsky. He called this shit like 3 weeks ago when New England and the Colts were like left for dead. He's like, watch out for these two teams. These two teams are going to bring the noise. Bill, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish your point.
No, I mean, I agree with you. The last 4 weeks, they're playing as well as anybody in the league. Foxborough, Bill Belichick, that's not going to be an easy game to go win. You get back to the same, Baker mentioned his post-game press conference as well. I don't know, we'll probably never know the truth about the OBJ stuff for a while, but that's the best that team's looked all year really last week. And they rallied around each other with all that drama going on. But going to New England and winning is a different animal. So I think it'll be a very close game. I think the spread indicates that, but I'm actually picking this game, so I'm not going to make a prediction right now, but it's going to be a very good football game.
Orlovsky said recently on First Take, I believe it was, where he said Baker Mayfield plays such better football without Odell Beckham Jr. because he's letting the offense come to him. He's throwing to the open receiver and not looking for Odell Beckham Jr. I agree with that point. I think that the Browns' offense is when you let it run as it's supposed to be ran, and you throw the ball to the open receiver and not worry about who it is. I think they're a very good football team. I think their defense is coming into form. I think if you run the ball with Chubb, give him as many carries as you possibly can. I think it's a low-scoring game. A defensive struggle, but I think that the Browns just have a better run game. Damian Harris is banged up for New England. I think the Browns pull this one out. Close game. 17-13.
I don't know if this changes any of your thinking or not, but that's the other thing that's going on with the Browns right now. So they had a COVID outbreak in their running backs room. So Nick Chubb has tested positive for COVID, and so has Demetric Felton, which is one of their backups. So Dearness Johnson right now, and so did John Kelly. Dearness Johnson right now is the only active running back that has not tested positive for COVID yet. Now, both of them are vaccinated, and they can play if they get the negative test before Sunday. But, right now, at least, they're not with the team, and Kareem Hunt's not designated. They're not designating him to come back from IR this week. So his 3 weeks are up, but he's not coming back to play this week. So
if that's the case,
I don't know if that changes anything.
It does. If that's the case, I would lean towards New England. This is why this is not a game I'm picking, because I don't. It's one of those games where I don't know how to predict the game. I look at this game and it could go a couple different ways. I could see the Cleveland defense turning Mac Jones over and getting to him, hitting him. I could see the New England defense turning Baker Mayfield over, especially if he's forced to pass if Nick Chubb's not playing. I'm not picking the game, but if I was leaning healthy versus healthy, I would lean Browns. I think they're a better football team.
The one thing that I do want to add, too, is that with this, Cleveland Browns defense, they played a lot more man coverage last week, and it showed they were successful. Greg Newsman, Denzel Ward, very successful in man coverage. And this is going to be a D-line that Mac Jones has not seen before. So I'm going to be curious to see how he's going to look he's going to have more accelerated clock this week as opposed to most normal weeks. It's hard for me not to. I mean, I think this game is a legit pick 'em, and it's hard for me not to go with the Browns. Call it home or call it what you want, but I think the Browns squeak out a win, 17-16.
Last one we have to talk about is Chiefs at Raiders. The Chiefs, however you want to look at it, they look terrible. Won 2 straight. They beat a really bad Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers watched that game cheering. You never show how much more you need him now after watching Jordan Love look terrible in that game. They still only won the game 13-7, and they needed a big third down conversion to Tyreek Hill to get it. The Chiefs have looked terrible all year, and they're playing a Raiders team which I really don't think is that good, and I just think they're fading. I think it'll be a high-scoring game because I think either team won't really be able to stop each other that much. But I don't know. This is another one of those games. Like, how do you bet it? Like, how do you pick this game?
See,
like, what would be your logic on how this game goes?
The thing with the Raiders though is that what gives them this momentum is that they keep facing so much adversity. So you have the whole thing with Gruden. We know what happened with Henry Ruggs. And then now Damon Arnett has been cut. I mean, 2 of your first-round picks from last year completely off the team. So this is a team that's just rallying together and finding ways to win. But there's nothing logical about picking them to win each week. So I don't know.
Sooner or later, the wheels have to fall off.
You would think, right? Like, you can't. I mean, I understand.
I don't know.
Playing for each other goes a long way. But, like, at some point, that can't be good enough in the NFL.
I agreed. Bill, do you have a thought on this? Because I'm perplexed. It seems like Cottrell's perplexed. I don't know how to pick this game.
No, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. I have no idea what Kansas City's going to show up. And every time you have a game like last week where the Raiders look awful, they turn around and play some, they'll go out and score 40 this week. Like, I don't have a gauge on them either. They do this every single year. Logic would say eventually, we start seeing the Kansas City Chiefs from the last 2 years. It just has to happen. I mean, nothing's changed. It's all the same players. I don't understand.
One could argue they're actually better. Personnel wise.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't. I wouldn't pick this game.
No.
I would. I would flip a coin in predicting who will win this game. My eyes and everything tell me to pick Kansas City, and I know as soon as I say that, the Raiders will win by 10. I don't know.
Eric Rosenblum said battle of the tight ends. I think the only reason it won't be a battle of the tight ends is because when the Raiders play the Chiefs, the Honey Badger sticks Darren Waller, and it's some of his worst games. It's notable. I mean, Waller had one really big game versus the Chiefs last year, but in the other 3 games that they've played, the Honey Badger does a very good job of locking him up.
I mean, it seems like that's like the continued trend throughout the league. You see that tight ends have their worst games when they have corners or just defensive backs sticking them. Linebackers can't stick tight ends.
I think
it's
safety. I think a safety
Honey
Badger that was a corner.
Yeah, I'm going to say Tyrann Mathieu is really a corner, but he moved to safety just because
he's
he can.
Such a good player,
just because
man.
he can. I mean, guys like him and Minkah Fitzpatrick, you can't – they don't grow on trees. So,
no.
Nope.
Tyrann Mathieu's a different breed. So when you have guys like that sticking tight ends, it makes it tough for them because you're not faster than them.
Trevon Morag sticking Travis Kelce.
That's going to be an interesting matchup.
If I had to pick the game, I'd say the Chiefs by 3. I hate picking it though.
I mean, that's you think it almost just
I wouldn't pick. I have a 10-star play this week. 10-star best. This is my play of the year. I have a play that I'm 100% sure will hit. So I'm not going to mess around with this game that I know won't. I don't know what's going to happen.
I hear you.
I have a play this week. I'm telling you right now, it's going to hit. My 10-star play. I'm going to go last on pick 'em because I really want to save that to the end. Control, why don't you start us off?
All right, so I'm going to go. My first 2 games are going to be with 2 teams that played each other this past week. So my first game is the Chargers -3 at home versus the Vikings. This is a Chargers team that plays better at home. I think coming off of a tight game against the Eagles, they're really going to put it all together, and I think they can slow down that Vikings team, and especially with the Vikings dealing with all this stuff. I'm sure Dalvin Cook's going to play, but who knows how much he's – I think everything for the Vikings is going to be normal, but who knows about what's going to happen with them throughout the weeks. But I still like the Chargers no matter what. Dalvin plays 100% of the snaps, whatever. I like the Chargers in that one. I like your Philadelphia Eagles +2.5 at the Broncos. I think this is an Eagles team that's really starting to put it together. They're playing hard. They're running the football. It's making life easier on Jalen Hurts. Say what you want about Jalen Hurts and him not being an accurate passer, not stretching the field, one read, whatever. Kid's a gamer, and I like him going into Denver and winning that game. And I like the under 49.5 Seattle at Green Bay. Out Aaron Rodgers plays, with him and his immunization records and everything still being out there. Russell Wilson comes back. I think Russ is going to be able to put up points in that Packers defense, but I don't see it touching 49.5.
Rodgers is cleared Saturday. Rodgers is going to play. Rodgers is going to play in that game.
For sure?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, I talked to him. Him and my good friend Joe Rogan.
Should be
Shally.
suspended, but that's a different conversation for a different
Yeah, he got
day.
fined $14,000. It was a joke. That's equivalent to me getting fined $33 out of my paycheck.
The same as Lazard.
Exactly.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Shally, give me your picks.
They fined Green Bay a whopping $300,000. Like, oh no, however they're going to pay that. My first one, I'm going to take New England -1.5 at home against Cleveland. I kind of foreshadowed this a little bit. I think New England's defense makes enough plays. I think it's a very tight, low-scoring game. I think it's one possession. I think it's something like 23-17, 23-20, somewhere in there. I think it's going to be a very high-quality football game on both sides of the ball. And to Cottrell's point, with Chubb and those guys maybe not even playing, it sways me a little bit more towards New England. But even if they are playing, I still like New England in a very tight football game. I think they're playing a little bit better right now. I think on paper, Cleveland has the better roster, but the way they're playing as a football team, the last 4 weeks, I think New England's playing better right now. They're at home. And I'll ride with the Pats for now. My second game, Los Angeles Rams -4 at San Francisco. With them playing awful last week against Tennessee, I think they come out hot. San Francisco is kind of on the verge of just packing it in if they haven't already. They lost to a Kyler Murray-less. No Nuke, no Hopkins last week, and they got destroyed by Arizona. That team is not playing well. Los Angeles coming off a bad loss, needing to rebound. I like them a lot to go on the road and cover the 4. My last game, I'm going to say this, assuming I'm under the assumption that Kyler Murray is going to play. And if they are, I like Arizona -10.5 versus Carolina, starting a backup quarterback. Sam Darnold went on IR today with a broken shoulder. First start. I like Arizona. They're rolling right now. They're still playing well. They're an AG Green miscue away from probably being undefeated. So I will take Arizona, assuming him and Hopkins play. If they don't play, there's a couple other games I like. Cottrell just mentioned one of them. But if they don't play, I'll put my alternate pick up on the site for the guys that do follow my pick. So I'll update that as we get closer to Sunday. But I like Arizona -10.5.
I appreciate that, Bill. See, like, Bill's got a following. The people text him for the picks. They do. I'm right next to him. They're like, who do you like in this game? I'm like, what the hell, dude?
The NFL following is like, it's like 6 people. I tell people
I have an
not to pick my
NFL following.
picks.
I have people like threatening me.
I know you do.
People, it's so ridiculous, dude.
College is different.
I'm 19-14 on the season. I have people threatening me over picks. I swear to God. I'm 19-14. Like, does anybody realize that's like 60%? That's like really good in the NFL. I'm not 70% last year, so people are losing their friggin' mortgage. It's ridiculous, but whatever. I'm not going to get too far into that. I have the lock of the century. I have the lock of the year, and I'm 100% sure of it. And I'll get into that statistic. I'm going to get into a third because I'm going to break it down. Charles is going to record it. We're going to release it on the TikTok, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be, it's epic. First game I'm going to go, it's an ugly game. I already called this earlier. Titans versus Saints. I think the under 44.5 it is, or 45, whatever it is. I think this game's not going to go anywhere close to the over. I love the under in this game. Slam that under hard. It's awesome. Titans, Saints, under. Next game I think might be the highest scoring game of the week. The Vikings are going to play against the Chargers. The Chargers have the 32nd ranked run defense. They're going to have to load up against the run with Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook's going to run the ball all over them. I think that it's going to create play action. I think Jay Jetta goes wild. And I think that the Minnesota Vikings can't stop the Chargers, particularly at home. So I'm going to take the over 54 or 53. I don't care what it is. That game gets into the 60s, and I don't think it's that close. Found the trend, and it's hit 78% over the course of this year. Teams that cover versus teams that do not cover. The next week, the teams that do not cover. Like, so a team that covers versus a team that didn't cover play the next week. It's hitting 78% this year. It's absolutely absurd. This one, I think, is even more absurd. Atlanta Falcons had played their best football game. They went into New Orleans and won that huge game at Atlanta. The Cowboys played their worst football game. They played the Broncos, and they got their ass beat throughout that entire game. The Cowboys -9 is the biggest lock I've ever seen in my entire life. Get it now. Bet your mortgage on it. Be homeless by tomorrow. I don't care. The Cowboys are going to win this game by 25 points or more. This game will be a whitewash. And I hate the Cowboys, but I love them in this spot. It's at Dallas. They got a get-right game after getting beat up by the Denver Broncos. I could not be more sure about this one. 10 stars. It's my play of the year. I love the Cowboys -9 over the Atlanta Falcons, and I don't think it's even close. I think you hit that cover, bet it first half, bet it first quarter. You're going to hit it the whole way. Alternate line, 16.5, take it. Love the Cowboys -9 versus Atlanta. That's my picks. Thoughts on that, guys? Anybody disagree with that?
I mean, I love the spot of Dallas come off a loss, and in a bad loss at that. Atlanta's played all right the last couple of weeks, though. So, I mean, and we all remember what happened last time they were there. So
I do.
The worst onside kick recovery formation ever in the history of football. But I think Dallas wins that game. That was one of the games I was looking at. I'm not quite, 10-star, put my mortgage on it type thing as you are, but I do like it.
Tiny, I promise you I will get to that. I'm not going to. She said, someone please pick Detroit over the cheating Steelers. Tiny, I promise you I will get to that. All right, so college basketball started last night.
Yes, it did.
2 game parlay. I hit it. Loved. It was Duke and Kansas. Am I correct? The 2 winners?
Yes.
Yes.
I think this is going to be even more of an exciting college basketball season than last year was. What we did was we picked our Final Four. What our Final Four will be for this year. I mean, I can't pick a national champion. I got to see a little bit more. But I have 4. Cottrell has 4. Bill has 4. Let's just get right into it. Cottrell, you want to start? You got a lot of names, brother. College Cottrell is ready.
So you'll see a trend with my Final Four. I absolutely love this freshman class. I was telling these guys about it last night. There's so many good freshmen, and I think a lot of them are going to be, Wooden Player of the Year nominees, like when it's all said and done. But just a few freshmen to look out for. Imani Bates from Memphis. The kid's 17 years old. He was supposed to graduate 2022. He reclassified. So now he's a freshman in college right now playing. His teammate, Jalen Duren, another freshman at Memphis. Chet Holmgren, the phenom, is at Gonzaga, #1 kid in the country. I mean, 7'1" kid with handles, and he's a true unicorn, as Gene likes to call him, just like Porzingis. Peyton Watson at UCLA, another freshman kid. He's coming off the bench right now, but I'm sure middle of the season you're going to see him really start to take that next leap. And then Paolo Banchero from Duke is the big one. He had the game of his life, first game of the year against Kentucky last night. So those are the 5 names I would look at.
I'm so angry that game happened last night because it's going to feel like I'll get into it. I wished it like we did this last week, but we had a lot last week. But whatever, God.
So 4 schools I went that I talked about. They're true freshman kids. Are the 4 schools I'm going with for my Final Four. I like UCLA. I like Gonzaga. I like Memphis. And in Coach K's final hurrah, I like Duke to make it to the Final Four.
Shally, I have also a trend also. Would you like to go second?
Sure. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever easier for you.
Yeah, I have a trend I want to hit too.
A lot of the guys I had highlighted, Cottrell already hit on. One of the other ones I will talk about is Caleb Houston, who is also a projected top 5 pick for next year. He went to Michigan. Had a good first game tonight against Buffalo. My man Hunter Dickerson had 27 points right off the bat. So I'm not going to talk about the players too much because Cottrell literally hit on like 7 of the 8 I had on my list. Typical attention hog. Anyway, so my 4 teams for this year, I'm going to go with Gonzaga. They did front load their schedule a little bit this year. They have, I believe they have UCLA, I want to say Kentucky left, and they play Texas. I think Texas is their next game. After that, they're going to get into their conference like they always do, and they're just going to hurt people. That's just what they're going to do. So If they get through those big 3 games at the beginning of the season, I think there's a chance they go to the tournament undefeated again. But they are absolutely one of the best teams in college basketball this year. To Gene's point, we have to see everybody play a little bit more before we predict who's going to win. But I will just remind everybody this preview show last year that all 3 of us correctly predicted the championship game for the March Madness tournament. So Gonzaga is definitely one of my picks for the Final Four. Number 2 is Duke. I do agree with Cottrell. I think Duke's going to be good, and I think there's no way that the NCAA doesn't fix it, that Coach K makes the Final Four. I'll put my tinfoil hat on for that. There's no way he's bowing out like the Sweet 16. So you will see crazy things happen down the stretch for Duke, but they'll make the Final Four. They have the talent to do it. My 3rd team, I'm actually going to go with Purdue. They return 4 of their 5 starters. They have a couple transfers that came in. And they have a great front line. They have 2 big kids that can both play. They're going to be matchup nightmares for a lot of teams that they're going to play that don't have 2 quality big men. They're one of the few teams in the country that I think that can actually match up with Gonzaga pretty well with the way they're going to play. So I like Purdue. On the 4th team, I'm going to pick no other than Michigan. Hunter Dickinson coming back. Mike Davis being gone. Caleb Houston coming in. Again, he's going to be a lottery pick next year. Kid's exciting. He's going to be probably going to be a shooting guard in the NBA. But between that and then Danny Jones transferring in, he's going to play the Mike Smith role from last year. He's going to be a point guard. He's going to score, play great defense. I love everything about this team. So I think Big Ten's going to have 2 teams in the Final Four this year.
Bill, I hate you.
All right.
We're not even in the same fucking studio, and you have the same goddamn Final Fours, man. Literally to a T. Listen, this is my trend. Ready? Gonzaga, I love them. Drew Timme coming back, and you got Chet Holmgren. You have 2 guys that are absolutely going to dominate the glass. And you know what I watched last year with Baylor? I watched him dominate the glass. I watched him dominate the front court, and they were big, and they were mean, and they were bully ball, and just one strong in the paint. So I followed that trend. This year. I got Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren and the Gonzaga Bulldogs in my Final Four. I got Hunter Dickinson and Michigan in my Final Four. I like the kid Musa Diabate. Am I saying that right, Bill? I know you're a
yes, sir.
Nation.
Yep.
Love the kid. Kid's solid.
Yep.
And then I love Purdue, Trevion Williams. You said front court, but that kid is special. Trevion Williams will be a top 15 pick, man. He's really, really good. Strong big man from Purdue. He's just going to dominate in the paint. Also, they have a guard by the name of Jaden Ivey. Watch out for him, man. He's a good ball player.
Yep.
And then I think it'll be a battle for the best player in the country between Chet Holmgren and Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero could be the next absolute superstar in the NBA. And forget college basketball. This kid's going to be absolutely special. Pablo Banchero and Trevor Keels for Duke. Watch out for Duke Blue Devils. I don't think it's going to have any, and it's Coach K's final year. I don't think there will be that much, maybe they'll give him an extra call or 2, but I don't think they'll need much to get to the Final Four. I really think those are the best 4 teams in the country. UCLA, Texas, and Memphis are my 3 honorable mention teams I wanted to put in there, but these 4 teams are just loaded, and I love them.
The one thing that I just wanted to mention real quick about UCLA is, they got the kid who I think might win. I think he's going to be Player of the Year. Johnny Zhang came back. He should have went to the NBA.
He should have 100%.
I respect his decision, and it was talks that he probably would have been like a late first rounder, and he wanted to go back to school, get some more learning in, and raise his draft stock. So I definitely respect him on that. And
Control just said he got some learn on. I love it.
Got some learn on.
So
Gene,
I think Johnny Zhang might win Player of the Year this year. So
Gene mentioned one of my my 2 sleeper teams, which is Texas. My other sleeper team this year is Kansas. They have a lot of returning talent. This isn't going to look like your typical Kansas team this year. Bill Self, I think, is learning that you got to open it up a little bit and kind of play a more exciting brand of basketball. And he went at transfer portal, got some kids. Has two experienced point guards coming back. I think Kansas is also a team to watch. I expect them to win the Big 12 again. But those are two teams to keep your eyes on. Chris Beard at Texas went nuts with the transfer portal, like brought in kids from literally every corner of the country. Bunch of older 4th, 5th year senior kids. Texas, if once they get into a rhythm and learn to play with each other, and that is a team that nobody is going to want to play at the end of the year. No one.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Nova. Colin Gillespie came back.
It's the next tier. They're the next tier. They're good. They're going to be really good. They'll probably win that. They'll probably win the Big East. But
my problem is it's the same thing as what I think it's always been with Nova. Unless they're the national champion type team, like I thought they were the 2 years they won, I just don't think they're that good. I don't think Connor Gillespie is the kid that's going to carry you to the Final Four. I just don't think he is. Good ball player, but I mean he's a second-round talent at best. And that's just the truth. I don't we can lie all we want and say he's going to look really good in the Big East, but and Jay Wright's a great coach, probably the best top 5 coach in the country. But it's not the point. He's going to win them a couple games, but they're not a top 5 team in the country. Not a top 10 team in the country. 8, 9, maybe at the highest.
They're top 10 for me.
But I love a lot of teams this year. I can't wait to get this college basketball season. Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Shally, you're on. You got to go first because you're literally not here, crying. I'm tears. I can't reach out and touch you.
All right, I'll go first. So mine's a little serious this week. I know the trend the last couple of weeks it has been serious, but my You Gotta Be Kidding me this week is Colin Kaepernick. I'm going to give you a couple things, right off the bat here before anybody even gets upset with what I'm about to say. I believe in people speaking up and standing up for what they believe in. Have that be, racial injustice, police injustice, whatever it is, mind you it is. I have no problem with people, expressing their First Amendment rights. Back whatever cause you want, whatever moves you. I'm all for that. I do believe there was better ways to protest than kneeling for the national anthem. I believe both things can be true. That being said, he has a Netflix special out right now. He pretty much compared playing in the NFL and going to the rookie combine as being a slave. This is the type of stuff to me that discredits what he's trying to do. I'm not sure if he's ever really educated himself on what happened to slaves back in history. I promise you, slaves were never paid millions of dollars. I promise you, NFL players are never separated from their families or sold to other families on other parts of the country to work for 16 hours a day and sleep in a barn and not get paid and eat little food and be forced to breed and, make what, back then, slave owners thought were, higher end children that they would then take away and raise to be bigger, better slaves. That was the mindset back then. That is not even close to anything that happens in the NFL. You're going to a combine to line up for a chance to make millions of dollars and live your dream. If you want to agree that Colin Kaepernick got blackballed from the NFL by a bunch of old white rich guys, I'll agree with you 100% on that because he did. He got that way because he stood up for what he believed in. Again, I don't think he should kneel for the national anthem, but he brought attention to something that is a problem in this country. And after he decided not to take a contract to be a backup quarterback, he pretty much got blackballed by a bunch of old rich guys. And the NFL settlement tells you all you need to know about that situation. So again, I don't disagree with anything Colin Kaepernick is trying to do or stand up for or speak out about and bring awareness to. I do have a problem with being a little tone deaf that you're saying the opportunity to make 20s and 30 and 40 millions of dollars to play football is anything close to what slaves went through in history. That's a joke. That literally brings unwanted attention and it discredits everything you're trying to do. Everything. You've never experienced anything close to what those people went through. Nothing. It's one of the darkest periods in the history of this country. So for this week, for me, it's Colin Kaepernick.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Good job.
All right, so mine this week is, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Mac Jones, ankle lock on Brian Burns. I mean, if you guys didn't see it, Brian Burns got a strip sack on Mac Jones and bent to edge, swiped the ball out, ball's flying around, and Mac Jones apparently thought Brian Burns had the ball, grabbed his ankle, and then just twisted it until he couldn't twist it anymore. So my whole thing with it, if he had the ball, I mean, I guess that's somewhat okay. I still think that's egregious the way he did it, but you can't just be out there twisting ankles that you have no clue who has the ball. Like, you have to put yourself in a better situation to know, who has the ball and what's going on. And for that, Mac Jones, I know you're a rookie. I don't think you're a dirty player, but this was a dirty play. So for that,
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I told people I was going to get into this earlier in the show. Pretty simple to me. My you got to be kidding me this week is the Tony Corrente and his crew in the Chicago Bears Pittsburgh Steelers game on Monday Night Football. That was a travesty. I've never seen. I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans that posted and said Chicago Bears won this game. We didn't win this game. People apologizing to Chicago Bears. That game was absolutely brutally officiated. Justin Fields, one of the clearest roughing the passer calls you'll ever see in your life, didn't get called. He literally said to the referee, he goes, "Ben just got that call. I can't get that call." He heard it on the mic'd up there, and the taunting call. Man, I feel terrible for that kid, man. Practice squad kid that got cut off of Pittsburgh's roster, that signed on his first NFL game, and he gets one of the biggest sacks of the game, and they call taunting for nothing. Tony Corrente bumped his ass out to bump into him and then pulled his flag. Tony Corrente is, there's no doubt in my mind Tony Corrente is bought. There's no doubt in my mind that he's fixing NFL games. There's no doubt in my mind that this has a lot to do with gambling and different aspects of the sport that are super ugly. Yes, it was 14 penalties on the Bears, maybe even more. But it wasn't just the penalties. It was just the way the game was called. The Bears got cheated that game. They called a clipping call on an offensive lineman that didn't even touch the D end. And it was a touchdown. It got called back and they ended up kicking a field goal. The Bears got absolutely cheated Monday night at Pittsburgh. And that was egregious. And, I need to have this for all the Bears fans out there and anybody else that watched that football game that knows how disgusting it was. I had no money on the game. I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm not a Bears fan. There's nothing about this game is personal. I watched that game, and it actually took my love of football down a notch. And it's very tough for that to happen. But Tony Corrente needs to be fired. That whole crew needs to be investigated. That was an absolute joke, and that reeks of fixing a football game. I've watched a fixed football game on Monday Night Football. And for that reason, Tony Corrente and his entire crew.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Shocked the NFL hasn't come out and publicly said anything yet about it either. Like, they haven't been suspended or fined or anything yet. So I don't know if that means they're looking into it, which, to your point, I hope they are.
They're already signed a game.
Yeah, I mean, they can still pull them at any point. I mean, it's not hard for them to get somebody there, but
they're not going to put this out, and they're not going to get out in front of this. That's not what the NFL does. They kind of do things behind closed doors.
That's why it's called the shield. They hide behind it.
Yep. Absolutely.
No, but but if they do get suspended or something, that is a crew that gets a game every week. So if they pull them, then obviously something's up. But I also think Gene did make a good point. I think you have to be pretty naive with certain things that happen in sports these days to not think that some of these guys are on a take. I mean, we had the NBA scandal 10 years ago.
We watched that Sacramento Kings game versus the LA Lakers, and we knew that game was fixed when it happened. We all said it.
Yep.
Game 6 at Sacramento was fixed. And now you find out Tim Donaghy refereed that game? Come on.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So I would, and I would say basketball is probably the easiest to fix, and then football is right behind it. So with the way you could throw flags and slow a game down or change, game flow. So it's definitely something to watch. I think Gene covered that really well. I want to see what happens come Sunday. I want to see if they're on the field or not.
All right, well, any final thoughts from any of you guys?
I got nothing, surprisingly.
Charlie?
No, nothing really. I mean, it's it's just such an exciting time of year, man. Got hockey started, basketball started, college football is literally right in the middle of everything. Now you got college basketball, NFL is getting close to really heating up. So I mean, it's just if you're a sports fan, man, this is the best time of year, in my opinion.
Well, I'll just reiterate, thank you guys very much for listening to our show. Please like us, share us, download us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter. We have a Twitter page. Anything you can, share us, TikTok. I also want to bring light to 2 shows that you might not know, be aware of. One of them is Birds Deep with me and D. Godfrey on Friday nights. If you're a diehard Eagles fan, listen in. We'll break down each Eagles game. Another one's a brand new show that Bill and Control are on. It's Triple Option Tailgate. It's a college football show. It airs 10 o'clock Saturday morning under East Coast Gridiron. Guys, listen, we're only going to create more and more content. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to grow and continue to build, and we need your help and support, and we appreciate that. And you guys give us that platform to do that. So, with that, show 57, Wire2Wire, signing out.